speaker. We're really excited about you guys meeting him. He's someone that Doro and I really admire, and just so happy that he's here with us and that you're going to be able to spend the next few minutes with Vinny. Vinny has been a practitioner of insight meditation since the early 1990s. He's also a nationally recognized leader in designing and implementing interventions for at-risk adolescents and has led over 110,000 youth programs. He's taught over 110,000 youth on 4 continents. Please join me in welcoming Vinny. He comes from San Francisco. He too has a 2-year-old, and he just made it for this, and he's heading back. So with that, Vinny.
That's going to be my pitch today. I want y'all to try a little tenderness. That's what we're going to do today. We're going to try a little tenderness with each other, with ourselves. But I was taught to start by bringing in all the youth that taught me how to be in rooms like this. Right? So I was introduced saying how many kids I worked with, and they're very patient with me, very good teachers, children, youth. So I take a minute, and I imagine those 100,000 youth surrounding this building, arm in arm. There's gang leaders, and there's football captains, and there's straight A kids, and there's homeless youth. And they're holding this whole thing together, as far as I can see. So I'm standing up here, but I ain't alone. I'm standing on a lot of shoulders, you know what I'm saying? I'm standing on my family, my mentors, those youth. I'm going to read you something that helps me try a little tenderness. So we pray for the children who sneak popsicles before supper, who erase holes in math workbooks, who could never find their shoes. And we pray for those who stare at photographers from behind barbed wire, who can't bound down the street in a new pair of sneakers, who never counted potatoes, who are born in places we wouldn't be caught dead, who never go to the circus, who live in a very scary world. And we pray for children who bring us sticky kisses and fistfuls of dandelions, who hug us in a hurry and forget their lunch money. And we pray for those who never get dessert, who have no safe blanket to drag behind them, who watch their parents watch them die, who can't find any bread to steal, who don't have any rooms to clean up, and whose pictures aren't on anybody's dresser, and whose monsters are real. And we pray for children who spend their allowance before Tuesday and who throw tantrums in the grocery store and pick at their food, who like ghost stories and who shove dirty clothes under the bed, who never rinse out the tub, who gets visits from the tooth fairy, who don't like to be kissed in front of the carpool lane, who squirm in church and scream in the phone, and whose tears are sometimes make us laugh, and whose smiles can make us cry. We pray for those whose nightmares come in the day, who will eat anything, who have never seen a dentist, who aren't spoiled by anybody, who go to bed hungry and cry themselves to sleep, who live and move but have no being. We pray for children who want to be carried and for those who must, who we never give up on, and for those who don't get a second chance, for those we smother, and for those who will grab the hand of anybody kind enough to offer it. So no matter who you are, you got love coming. That's what I'm here to remind us of. I ain't come here to teach you nothing. I'll tell you a little bit about the house I grew up in. I was real close with my mom. She was good people's. We didn't have a lot, but whatever we had, she gave me. You know, the kind of person that always got your back. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. My pops, he was a bit of a different story. He was a tough dude, you know, a gang member, convict. I think when I was born, he just got scared because he saw this little boy. You know, you ever seen a baby? You know the big eyes we come out with? Just like, what? I think he just tripped, you know, because he was trying to figure out how to get me ready for his world. And his world meant prison. His world meant violence. And here's this little big-eyed boy, you know, big old heart. And so he did everything he could do to harden me. And it worked, you know. By third, fourth grade, I could see the look on my face when I look back at the pictures. You know, I, like many of you, grew up in a house with lots of secrets. You know, I was taught that what happens in this house, yeah. So I was taught to live a double life, right? So even though I had some close friends, there was people in my life I hung out with on the corner every day, every night. Not one of them knew what was going on inside me, because I knew how to keep that secret, you know? And so one night I'm standing there, right? I'm on the corner, snapping my fingers, acting cool. You know, and when I look back, I could see that all my friends, we all had stuff going on. Nobody talking about it. So we were all just snapping on each other, right? Till somebody goes too far. But we were like time bombs. And somebody said something to me. You know, these two kids were about to actually fight. And they said, hold on. Yo, Vinny, is that ambulance in front of your house? And I started running. And as I ran up the stairs, I seen them taking my mom out. And so I grabbed her, get in her eyes, make sure she was cool. And in that moment, it all just fell away. You know, all the promises I had made. You know, she was 37. So we was at the funeral. My pops was locked up. And so I was standing at the funeral and all my friends were there. And you know, I was 17. So I didn't want to let them see me cry. So I just posted up in the back, you know. And all my friends, you know, they did what we knew how to do, which is, here, man, take this. Here, hit this. You're going to be all right, man. Don't worry about it. Not one of them knew how to pull me aside and say, you know what, bro, I can't even imagine what you're going through, dude. You know, but if you want to call me, if you want to hit me up, even if it's 3 in the morning, bro, talk to me, man. So I blame myself in that moment because I was the man of the house, all that patriarchy I had learned. And so I had spiraled into drug addiction at that age. I became homeless, and then they locked me up, right? And I don't tell you this story so you'll feel bad for me or so that that I could bully you into gratitude. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to do that. But what I know is a saying, an African saying that says, if the young are not initiated into the village, they'll burn it down just to feel its warmth. So I was that kid. You know, I was in the system, getting talked at, and I got out, and I found myself still just really just wanting to be with my mom, which meant gone, right? I had wished for non-existence. And so every time I fell out, right, like close to death, I was 110 pounds at 20, and somebody walked in that I could have never imagined into the crack house I was living in. It was somebody that I had hated, and somebody I had wished harm upon. That was my father. So he had come to get me and drag me up out of there and help me find another life. And I don't know, a week later, we were going into an institution, into a prison, to talk. And he asked me to tell part of my story, you know? And I gotta tell you, I was really blown away because it was the first time I had felt like I had value as a human being. I never related to myself like that. I'd always been looked at like a problem, like a piece of garbage even. So that's how I related to myself, and that story was powerful. So when he was asking me to share, it meant that I had value, and that changed my life, that moment. That was over 30 years ago, and that's what's led me to 34 countries and working with all of these young people. You know, I could go back into systems like the one I had found myself in as a teen and go find all the other ones that lost their way. See, I was taught that my heart was something I was supposed to hide from the world. Now I know it's my greatest gift, you know? All the parts of me that felt unlovable, that was what I had to welcome in, you know? Because, you know, I want to welcome every one of you, right? But not only every one of you, I want to welcome every part of every one of you, right? I want to welcome the parts of you that you're proud of and the parts you've been trying to change for years. Because the news is in, the data's in. Chris, you just put some data on there, right? A beautiful PowerPoint, bro. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I'm gonna point to power, okay? I am, because the power we got is, what we know, the verdict is in. You can't hate yourself into becoming a better person. Oh, that wasn't even what I was talking about, but cool. That's just my business card, I'm sorry. That wasn't supposed to be till later, but thank you, brother. Now we got this strategy where we feel like, you know what, I'm gonna just withhold love from these parts of myself. I'm gonna starve these parts of myself out until I act right? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So I'm gonna let you know that if that could have worked, it would have already. So we need to let that go. And we got to try a little tenderness. We gotta meet ourselves, all these different parts of ourselves, and see, what are you calling out for? If what's in me is what's loved and what's longing to be loved, where am I still withholding love from myself? Where am I still holding myself hostage? So mindfulness, that's what this is about for me. This is a practice of coming home, a practice of cultivating a feeling of belonging to ourselves. Do I belong to my experience? Or am I just kind of floating over the top of the buffet? I want a full contact life. I want to be in my world, not lost in a story about my world, right? But we have to start here. A lot of us are in the world. We're in the world trying to make it a better place. Cool, I'm with you. I spend most of my hours doing that. But there got to be a time that I say, yo, hold up. Why am I doing any of this, man? Can I just get with myself for even 20 minutes or a half hour a day and remember, come back to base? That's what I want to talk to you about, is whether we're coming back to ourselves. They say, the studies are like people check their phones like 150 times a day. How many times are we checking in with ourselves? Like 5? 3? Like, just check that out, there's people right now that are checking in on Instagram that they're at this conference. That's happening. That's happening. And I ain't trying to shame nobody. I'm just saying that's the culture that we're in, right? The culture we're in is like, yo, check it out, man. I'm totally meditating. Right? It's deep. It's deep. So how do we start here being a loving presence with ourselves? That way we could carry it into our families. That way we could carry it into our communities, the work that we do. But we got to start here. I can't pour from a cup that's empty. I don't know anybody that can. So in this world of doing, it's a revolutionary act to be. And we got to practice being. We're good at doing. Right? It's the being that's like, what? That feels weird. We're so used to paying all of our attention to the mind. I'm like, yo, check out your body. You're like, man, that dude's a hippie, dude. What are you talking about? So there's a lot of dimensions of experience, but we're so preoccupied with the thinking mind. It's like an IMAX theater up here, right? I feel like I am Jason Bourne, Right? So we got to start challenging the stories that we're living in. And we got to step out of those stories and into direct experience. What is happening right now? Can I feel my feet on this floor? Yes. Okay, what else is happening? Well, there's a lot of attention. Cool. What are we doing with this precious attention? The mind is a wonderful tool, but a terrible master. It gives us so many amazing gifts, but it is not the whole story. It's not the whole game, right? So we need to start paying attention to different aspects of our experience if we want our life back. Because the mind, I got thoughts about not having thoughts. I'll be sitting there in meditation sometimes. Sometimes I sit for like 6 weeks, silence, right? And I'm like, the mind is like, yo, check it out. You ain't even thinking right now. Yo, that's deep. want to speak to the management. You know what I mean? Who's running this thing, you know? But, would anybody be willing, they've been working on this helmet, and you put it on, and it broadcasts your thoughts. Anybody? Oh, no takers. Weird, right? Right? We wouldn't do that. Nobody would do that, right? We wouldn't do that. Why wouldn't we do that? Because that's not who we are, right? I'm not taking credit or blame for what's jumping off in here, right? That's not who we are. It's just stuff floating through. Things are arising, things are passing away, right? The only way illusion works is if we mistake it for reality. This is Mark Twain. He said, "The worst things in my life never happened to me." So, it could be a dangerous neighborhood we're living in, right? And we know, this is biology, we are the ancestors of the nervous animals, right? The ones that were like, those are our people. The ones that were all cool and mellow, they got killed. They didn't propagate. They literally call it a nervous system. You got that, right? So, biology is fantastic at survival, but it doesn't know much about happiness, right? So we got to train ourselves how to have the mind rest, because we can specifically direct awareness, and nobody really ever teaches us that. The mind is constantly looking, am I safe? Was I safe? Am I safe? Am I going to be safe? So it's not our fault that we're like this. Yeah. Just trying to protect ourselves. What I notice in a common story as I speak with people is that we think some other moment is going to hold what this one doesn't. It's wild because I can look at my life. How many different moments did I believe that? I believed that when I was in middle school. I was like, man, when I get to high school, it's going to be chilling. And as soon as I got there, I was like, you know what? When I move out of my house, when I get a car, actually, when I get a partner, it's going to be, when I get married, it's going to be on. Then, when I get divorced, it all happened. And it just kept moving. It was like this mirage, you know what I mean? Where I was just like, wow. It's deep. Anyway, if we set up this life in an adversarial way, it's like we think it's something to get through. It's something to get through, right? Like, I made it through that conference. I made it through this. I got the degree. I got whatever it is. It's like this get-through mentality keeps us from being present because we're like, nah, when this is over, I'm going to go home, and then we're just always leaning towards some other moment. And it's true, something was missing. I just didn't realize it was my presence. That was the missing key. Like, I could find myself in my life doing the same exact things. But if there was a level of presence, it made all the difference in the world. And that's what mindfulness is. It's practicing that presence. This is Edie Heliasm. She says, sometimes the most important thing in a whole day is the rest we take between two deep breaths. And what would our world look like if everybody spent just a couple minutes going inside? It takes a lot of courage to look inside. And I was in such a rush in my life. I had so much drive to try to make the world a better place. I couldn't even let in what was good about my life. There was love coming at me, and I was just like, yeah, I hear you. I just got to get to getting, So we can't postpone arrival in any way. Whenever I do that, I know I'm in that shell game, that some other moment's going to hold what this one doesn't, right? And we keep coming back to the present moment, right? Well, that's our whole thing in mindfulness. We're like, yo, come back to the present moment, come back to the present moment. Why? Why is this moment so magical? Well, actually, this is the only moment that love can actually be alive. I'm going to love you in 3 weeks from now. I loved you last February. I mean, what have you done for me lately? Like, it got to be now. It got to be now. And love is a verb, right? So are we actively in love with this moment? Are we actively in love together? Is that what we're doing here? So let's take a couple minutes to practice, all right? So I was in a prison just the day before yesterday, right? Sitting with a bunch of men, and I asked them the same thing I'm going to ask you, to close your eyes and see if you can just find some nobility in the way you sit. You know, whether you feel like a king or a queen, because it's a noble act to look inside. And this is just going to be like 3 minutes. It's going to be quick. But we got to stop talking about the menu and eating the food, you know? Just see what it feels like to slow down, right? Just closing our eyes. The visual world is so distracting. Just feel your body in the chair. Feet on the floor, a couple deep breaths. And let go of the stress that's in the body, the jaw, the shoulders. Let your shoulders roll a little bit, your neck. And connect in with this breathing that's happening. Because in some ways, it's your oldest friend. It's been breathing you for a lifetime. And if you sense any kind of resistance or struggle, just ask yourself, what expectation is sponsoring this suffering? Right? Like maybe I thought it would be better or different, or doesn't matter the story, just breathing and watching it all come and go. And I want you to think about what nourishes you. We all got stuff that nourishes us in this, self-care model. I mean, nature or music or good food or good company. You can't do it wrong, but just reflect on what is truly nourishing. And the mind can usually goes toward what's wrong, what's missing, right? But now I want you to just connect in with any kind of fundamental okayness that's right here, right now. Any moment of contentment. And let your eyes open, but stay in a meditative state. Just see what it feels like to balance awareness. Right? So you can hear me without doing the hearing, right? And if you just open your eyes, I just magically appear, right? You don't have to do the seeing, right? So you get to stay in your experience and then receive the world. So maybe it's 80-20, or maybe it's 50-50. But see what it feels like to balance awareness, inner and outer, so we don't have to leave ourselves. Does that make sense? This is Hafiz. About 700 years ago, he scribbled this down. He said, my dear, is it true that your mind is sometimes like a battering ram running all through the city, shouting so madly inside and out about the 10,000 things that do not matter, right? The mind is good at finding what's missing, what's wrong, right? There's a lot of discernment, you know? But we don't want to call that a life, right? We get to choose our attitude. This is Robert Anton Wilson. He wrote, you are precisely as big as what you love and precisely as small as what you allow to annoy you. I'm mad at him for saying that. I am. He put it down. He put it down so clearly. So whenever I'm moving in my world, right? So, you know, I drive home and I just sit there in the driveway for a few minutes because I don't want to bring my whole world rushing into my house, right? I know as soon as I get in there, my baby's there, my wife is there, my whole world is there. So I gotta like get with myself, let whatever I did go. And so I get to be present with her, see how her day was, right? So we want to kind of take as many moments as possible throughout the day. Whenever I'm changing modalities, I'm changing focus. It's like, let me just chill for a minute. Let me just check in with myself. There's so many chances to stop and step outside of our story and step into our lives. And for me, the practice of mindfulness was about widening the conditions that I get to bring a generous heart to, right? Because it used to just be real small conditions. Everything had to be just right for me to be loving. And now it feels like, wow. When I find myself, when I accepted the places in myself that felt unlovable, when I saw them as being lovable, the whole world became lovable. Really wild the way that works. And then that gives me the courage to live with an undefended heart, to risk leading with connection, right? Because that's what we're doing. We're risking something when we lead with connection, right? That's the big heart work that we're doing. This is Hugh Prather. He wrote, all my life I made it complicated, but it's so simple. I love when I love, and when I love, I am myself. Right? That is an expression of freedom right there. So whatever it is that you're doing in this world, you're doing it. I see it as a way, that's the way you're spreading love, right? You're spreading love in your own particular way. And I just love that. And now go look around the room. Go ahead, check each other out. Go ahead, y'all checking each other out anyway. It's all good. Check each other out. Yeah. So look around, right? Now what if the hundreds of people that were in this room, right? Because there's hundreds of people here. What if every one of these people walked back into their life with a little bit more presence, a little bit more love, a little bit more willingness to connect, right? What if that happened, right? I mean, that would be powerful, right? Like, can you imagine all the communities? Because there's a lot of lives intersecting in this room right here, right? A lot of paths. And we're all going back to our own little world, right? Based on race, culture, class, all of it, right? So we're all going to go back to our own little places. But if we came with that big heart, can you imagine? That's what excites me. That's what has me leave my 2-year-old and get on a plane to come here. Yeah. But I'm an experiential learner, which means if we can't do it in this room, what room we gonna do it in? Right? How we gonna do it out there if we can't even do it in here? So what we gonna do, I'm gonna have everybody in this joint stand up. We're gonna put some music on, and just it's gonna be like 2 minutes, and I want you to just spread some love, hug each other, high five, introduce yourself. Hit that music for me, bro. Thanks for your careful. Come on out, come on out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Yeah. That's where I live now. I'm in the mountains. All right, y'all. Send it up. You see me one time. Send it up, send it up, send it up.